Voyagers. My name is Aaron Moss. With me is my wife, Michelle Moss. And this is Voyagers Cast, a Headcast Network 20-episode maxi-series podcast where we look at the greatest time travel show of the early 80s, Voyagers. Joining us on this monthly expedition through time will be several of my podcasting friends and fellow Voyagers. Each month we look at an episode of Voyagers and give you our thoughts. So let's take a look and see where we're landing this time.
Green light, kid. We did it.
Oh man. Aaron, that wasn't our normal startup. We just kind of fell through the wibbly wobbly timey-wimey.
Like a true Voyager?
Yeah.
Something different.
I know. So looks like we're stuck in a weird Western thing.
Well, that's because we're talking about episode 12 of Voyagers. This time it's Buffalo Bill and Annie play the palace.
That's right. So, nah, just kidding. Watching this right now, or just getting done watching it, we could have kept flying.
So before we get to that, though, the original air date of this was April the 9th of 1983. Actually, I was 13 years old when this came out.
I was 2. Just kidding.
Not far off. No, you were 6, actually. And the synopsis on this one from Wikipedia.
Actually, before you start that, if I was 6, I was more interested in watching Kids Incorporated than this show.
So was I, for different reasons. Anyways, so the synopsis from Wikipedia. In England, 1887, the Voyagers must prevent a wedding between England's Princess Victoria and Duke Michael of Russia. Queen Victoria has invited Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley to perform a Wild West show. A shooting competition has been arranged between the Duke and Annie, but the Duke's men kidnap Oakley to avoid the possibility of the Duke losing. Talk about a sore loser. Outnumbered, Bog and Jeff time jump into Africa in 1913. There, they help Dr. Albert Schweitzer treat a dying chief, but a witch doctor believes that the Voyagers are slave traders. Schweitzer's aide arrives with the medicine in time to save the chief's life, and meanwhile, back in England, they're able to free Oakley from the Russians in time for her to beat the Duke at the shooting match. They then expose the kidnapping to the Queen, who breaks off the marriage alliance with the Russians. So that was Buffalo Bill and Annie Play the Palace.
And we can end it there and y'all go home.
And I was going to say, and Michelle's probably happy if we end it there. So this is going to be a 5-minute episode. I'll spill the next minute or so just babbling.
And I wish the show was 5 minutes. It was boring.
So as you can tell, Michelle, this is Michelle's first time watching it, and
it'll be my last.
And the only time she's going to watch it. So, Michelle.
Yeah.
I'm going to regret asking this, but do you have thoughts on this episode of Voyagers?
It was fantastically horrible.
What do you think was horrible about it? Let's start with that.
Okay. So, I thought the content was horrible.
What do you mean the content?
I didn't like the story.
Okay.
I was excited for Annie Oakley. And I was excited for Buffalo Bill. In 8th grade, we learned a lot about those two characters. And I really like Annie Oakley. And the name actually is kind of near and dear to my heart. Because that's what my dad would call me when we would go skeet shooting or trap shooting out of the gun range. Because the first time I started shooting, he was like, oh my gosh. He was like, I didn't know you were that good. So you're like a little Annie Oakley. And it would really warmed my heart. So I have a soft spot for that person. I just shouldn't say character because, she was real. And then actually in 8th grade, I knew a girl who was actually related to Buffalo Bill. And she did her whole report on her family and actually talked about how they related and stuff. So I kind of have a soft spot for those two characters, whatever you want to call them. And the show just pooped on them. I don't know. I don't think
the show pooped on them per se.
I didn't like how they're like, oh, we got to save the princess from the Russian. Did that really happen?
Well, no, because Jeffrey and Boggs stopped her from marrying him.
Okay, yeah. But I mean,
In the original time, in our time, no, they didn't get married.
I mean, were they even near the queen at one point or another? So
Well,
what
I'm
I
sure
want to
they
know.
were.
Did she ever hire them to do a show or... I don't know. I just...
Yeah, they did.
She really wanted to watch a pony show? Sorry, wrong thing.
Well, you never know.
You know, those England freaks. But I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like how it first started off in the bunker. And and I was looking forward to it. So I was really disappointed. Then let's talk about the whole African tribe thing. That was so horribly done. That set was horrific.
Well, before you go, let me answer your question real quick.
Okay.
So yes, in 1887, Cody took his show to Great Britain in celebration of the Jubilee year of Queen Victoria, who attended a performance. It played in London, then Birmingham, and Sallyford near Manchester, where it stayed for 5 months. So in 1887, and this took place in 1887. So yes, he was over in England at this time.
Okay.
Performing for the Queen. So that actually did happen.
Okay.
That portion of it.
Well, it still was stupid. But I will say that I was like, okay, well, I want to know what the real Annie Oakley looked like. So I Googled it. And I did a fairly good job of casting the Annie Oakley on here. But she was just goofy. Like, I know they were trying to make her kind or whatever, but
Well, they weren't trying to make her kind. They were trying to make her...
No, but she had she always smiled and had these...
Oh.
But it definitely had a feminist agenda to it. So, like, that...
Because they were woke?
But, I don't know, I could not... It just left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it except for the fact that I just didn't like this episode. And I guess, not everyone's going to be, oh, I like it. But this one probably is the worst episode that I've seen.
Wow, I'm not saying something. Well, not really. I'm thinking of
Quantum Leap.
the Quantum Leap Starbright
This
Project.
makes Pig Farmer look fun.
Wow, that's kind of harsh.
I know. For those of you who don't know, there's an episode where there's a farmer, and I call it the Pig Farmer episode. And the gentleman that we record with from Australia, his name's Hayden. He doesn't like it either. So we call it the Pig Farmer episode. And it just is a horrible episode. But I'd rather watch Pig Farmer 1,000,000 times over than this. That's how bad. In fact, I was like, could we get away with not recording this episode? Because I really didn't want to record it. And then Aaron's like, hey, well, we can not record tonight. I'm like, no, because if we don't record tonight, I'm going to forget it. And then I'm going to have to watch it all over again. And I'm not putting myself through that. That's how bad I didn't like this episode. I'm so sorry, people. How about you, Aaron? Let's.
And we had to record it because we couldn't just skip this episode.
We could have skipped it.
We couldn't have. I couldn't have.
I know.
OCD wouldn't let me.
To be also, in all honesty, I couldn't
My
either.
OCD wouldn't let me. Plus, I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah?
I mean,
Why?
it wasn't my favorite episode, but as I shrugged my shoulders, I can't really explain why. It was an enjoyable episode. I read a lot of books and stuff when I was younger about the whole Wild West and Billy the Kid and Buffalo Bill and all of them and Wild Bill and all of them. So I like, and Annie Oakley.
Right.
There were several different books I read when I was younger. So that kind of reaches a soft spot with me. And I don't think the writing was as bad as you say it was, in my opinion.
Well, I'm glad you have an opinion. Because otherwise we wouldn't have a show.
But yeah, let's go through in order. So they
Wait, hold on. Can I say something before we do that?
Because you didn't like it, so your opinion's null and void. No. Well.
Okay, I'll just let you run the show. You can talk when we're done. I'll be like, oh, not oh boy.
Wrong show.
Bat's breath.
There you go. Anyway, so what are you going to say? Besides Bat's breath.
So what I was going to say is there was like only one saving grace. And it was my 6-year-old me going, yay! There was actually a pretty princess in it. And she was blonde. And like that would have, and I know Aaron's like, yeah, she was hot, blah, blah, blah. But no, like I've complained on several occasions that the women haven't been all that lovely. And I've complained that, Bog tries to tap every time he can, but I wouldn't have blamed him on this one.
And this time the princess wanted to tap Bog.
Yeah, and really, to be honest with you, I don't blame her. But she was actually pretty, and like she fit the bill of what I would pick a princess to be. Because usually they look like Annie Oakley to me, kind of homely.
disagree. I think for the most part, most of the women that Boggs been attracted to have been attractive women.
I like this one.
And just the actress who played Princess Victoria was Robin Eisenman. She was born in 1953.
Wow, she's like older than my mom.
In fact, she still worked. Well, she did a short in 2018, short in 2015. She's done a little bit here and there. She's not been very prolific. I guess at the time, in 82 through 84, she was on Days of Our Lives.
Okay, so she was a soap opera actress. That would make sense why she was so pretty.
And she was on General Hospital before that. She was on an episode of Three's Company.
Oh.
As Veronica Furley.
Furley's niece.
Yes. Yep. She was an episode of Bosom Buddies, The Love Boat. Before this, yeah, she was an episode of Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, Dukes of Hazzard. She was in a lot of different shows before then. Yeah, she started acting in 1973.
Did you know that John Hexum actually turned down an episode or something about Dukes of Hazzard?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I read that today.
She was an episode of Mork and Mindy.
Nanu. All better than this episode.
Yeah, she did a lot of shows before this. An episode of Automan.
And then after this, nobody wanted to hire her because it was that bad.
No, actually, she did Days of Our Lives after this. I said Automan, and she did a few appearances here and there. Not a whole lot. And in 88, it looks like she stopped working in the business. And then she came back in 2012, and she's done a couple of things since then. So, And in the early 90s, she was a much sought-after acting coach, teaching audition techniques in Los Angeles.
Well, those who cannot do teach.
But again, she can do because...
Yeah. No, I'm just...
She did a great job in this.
Yeah.
I don't think you had a problem with her, per se.
Nope, not at all. The little voice in my head that likes women was really happy with her.
So anyway, so the episode starts off, as you were saying, with them landing...
In a bunker.
Well, they landed outside somewhere and they came walking up.
Oh, that's right. They went into the bunker.
You know, it wasn't so much a bunker, per se, but it's a little...
It was a bunker. It was in
area.
It was in the dirt. It was in the ground. It was a bunker.
And they realized that time was messed up, so I had to go...
Shocking.
Well, if they didn't, we wouldn't have a show.
I know.
Which I know probably make you happy for this one. But.
Yes, they just need to burn this episode.
But
it's going to be a short show.
They leapt out, and the soldiers in there with them was like, look, like, where'd they go? And I'm like, yeah, he died 5 seconds later. Because he wasn't paying attention and got shot in the head because he's busy looking where these two guys went to.
And it's all their fault. Another reason why this show is a horrible show.
But see, it didn't really matter because they stopped all that from happening. So
yeah, but what if that guy was the one who was going to solve cancer? And that's why we have cancer now, is because they let that guy get dead.
Well, no, because they went back in time and stopped it so that guy wasn't there at that point. So he wasn't there to die.
Maybe he needed to be there in order to find the fungus that was in the bunker.
If he died, he didn't need to be there.
It was in his pocket that he was going to do it when they took him to the...
And so they landed in England in 1887, where Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley's putting on a show for the Queen. They didn't realize it, so they intervened. And so that's where they met Buffalo Bill, Annie Oakley, the Queen, and Princess Victoria. So did you not like that part? Did you not care about that part?
I don't think I cared at that point. Like, literally, it didn't even grab my attention at the beginning. Like, I was so hoping. And then, like, the princess showed up. I was like, oh, okay, she's cool. Like, let's see what they do with that. And then...
Why didn't grab me? Because it was very action-packed. It was...
I didn't like...
Jeffrey leaping on a horse.
It didn't tickle my nerd fancy. It didn't tickle my history... I'm excited now, though, because, like, I was looking for pictures for us to work on Canva, you know?
Right.
And I found this page that lists trivia facts. And so I was reading the trivia facts because, you know, that's what I do. And because I was like, oh, maybe I'll find something that I can say this sounds smart on the show for once. And I didn't. But...
What you found about...
The dress?
No, John Hexum...
Yeah, so...
Trying out for turning down
Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, there was the other couple of ones that he did. I can't remember now. But I found out that there's a Titanic episode coming up.
Spoilers.
I'm so excited.
Well, you are now, but you're also excited about Buffalo Bill and...
Oh, stop it. Now if it's a real letdown, I'm going to be so upset. Thanks a lot for just like... It was like that thing where it's like, okay... you know, this part of my dinner sucked, but I know there's dessert. And you
Actually,
ruined
that's what?
18 or something.
14, episode 15.
15?
Is Voyagers of the Titanic.
In fact, this episode was so bad for me, I almost asked you if we could watch the next episode because I needed something better.
Well, again, the next episode, we'll talk about that next month, but that is the 13th episode, and as I'll talk about next month, my understanding was that was scheduled to be the last episode of the season.
It was, and that leads to another awesome fact that I learned today. I was hoping you were going to step into that doggy do.
I lined it up for you.
Yes, the stars were aligned, and you did it well, Zeus.
Jesus, did I look Puerto Rican to you?
I said Zeus, not Jesus.
Sorry, from Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, never seen it.
Hey, Zeus, right? John McClane, I owe you one.
Damn right
Thanks
you
for
owe me. You got any idea what those guys are doing to my shop right
Chill
now?
out, hey, Zeus.
Chill out? What the f***? Are you trying to relate to me? Talk like a white man.
Okay, Zeus, I'm sorry you got involved.
Why you keep calling
right?
me Jesus? I look Puerto Rican to you.
Guy back there called you Hey Zeus.
He didn't say Jesus. He said, hey, Zeus. My name is Zeus.
Zeus.
Yeah, Zeus. As in father of Apollo, Mount Olympus. Don't f*** with me or I'll shove a lightning bolt up your ass. Zeus. You got a problem with that?
Greek god, throw a lightning bolt up your,
Oh, that's funny. So,
anyways, we're not talking about Die Hard, but
no, so the fact that I wanted to tell you was I know that I remembered you telling me that there was only supposed to be so many episodes and then they added more.
right.
Apparently, they were going to shut it down at that point and they weren't going to give any more funding or something along those lines. But apparently, John Hexum actually put $5,000 into the bucket to help keep pushing the show forward. There was a couple other things that I read, of course, Swiss cheese memory and, Dory as Hayden calls me, but I thought that was interesting that he actually put $5,000 of his own money. And if you think about it, back in the 80s, that was a good chunk of change.
Yes. But again, that's all stuff we can probably talk about next episode when we actually deal with that episode.
Well, I'll look it back up and get more information. But I just
But don't look at
that
too
was
much
neat.
because you don't want to spoil things for yourself. Go put a pin in that.
And
But we're
then
talking about what?
I found out that the dress that the princess wears in this episode actually gets refurbished in episode 18.
15.
15? No, 18.
Yeah.
I think it was 18. I think they said 18.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was 18. I remember that now. It was 18. I don't know what the episode was, but I just know that she brings it back in, that the dress gets brought back in, just like the Colosseum area actually is used in this episode too, they said in the facts.
The episode 18 is All Fall Down.
Don't know what that means, but okay.
But anyways, we're not talking about All Fall Down. We're not talking about the Titanic. We're not talking about...
But I talked about the dress that was in this episode.
I know, yes, you did. Very nice.
And I really liked her dress too, by the way.
Yes, so
it
did
was
I.
a pretty dress, the blue dress that she was walking on.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really pretty. I'm sure you liked it too. But
I didn't say a word. But anyway, so...
and I didn't feel like Jeffrey has a big role in this. Usually he's rattling off a lot of facts and stuff.
Other than he was the one that told Bog they were wrong and where they needed to go and what they needed to fix.
But that's normal stuff. I wanted, he does more usually.
A lot of times, but this time, I don't know, he did have, he helped.
It was boring.
Wrote to try to let the Queen know that Oakley was kidnapped by the Russians. Them damn Russians causing problems in 1983, causing problems in 2022.
Bastards.
But,
That's sad.
and trying to cheat at the...
In fact, I want to say that my heart is with Ukrainian people because it's just what's going on right now in the world is just ridiculous. So,
from the time we record, there's going to be a couple months before this comes out, so hopefully things are resolved by then, but probably not. So, what do you think about Buffalo Bill asking Annie to throw the match for the Duke?
hated it. Like I said, I get it because it was all part of keeping the story going. He had to.
And again, that to me, from what I do know of him, he is very, especially in that time frame, very male chauvinistic and very.
Was he?
From what I understand, again, it's been years I've read anything on him, but if I remember right, yeah, he was very.
Well, then it fit the bill.
It was most of the guys back in that time frame were very...
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, women were not... Well, and that's why Annie Oakley is such a famous person, is because she was doing what men were doing and even better.
Yes.
So it's kind of... it's that whole... The song, anything you can do, I can do better.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can be, I can be greater. Sooner or later, I'm greater than you.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I can shoot a partridge with a single cartridge.
I can get a sparrow with a bow and arrow.
I can live on bread and cheese.
And only on that.
Yes.
So can a rat.
Any note you can reach, I can go higher.
I can sing anything higher than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
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 We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
Hey there. This is Aaron interrupting the show real quick. I didn't realize at the time, I've always heard the song, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better, but I never realized where it actually came from. Apparently it was written for a movie called Annie Get Your Gun, which was a 1950 movie, which was actually a fictionalized version of the life of Annie Oakley. So I just thought it very appropriate that without even realizing that this song was actually tied to Annie Oakley, who was in this episode. Michelle hit it right on the head of this. So just want to throw that in there real quick. I go ahead and return you back to the past, well, older past, Aaron and Michelle.
And that's one to grow on.
So I guess I'm gonna retract I'm not gonna retract, but I'm gonna say that him asking her to not do it and him like, oh, I didn't want to and all this stuff. I don't know. I think maybe he would have just been like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, especially if he was that much of a to women.
Right. I don't know if he was that much of a jerk.
I'm just going to say just a in general, because I get it.
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've read up on it. It seems like he was very, if my memory serves, which probably doesn't, he was very chauvinistic, very, very much of a man's man, if you will. And
he probably would have been glad to have Annie Oakley not. But if they were touring together, I don't know if they actually toured together and actually they did. Yeah. Oh, well, then maybe they were friends and I don't know. Maybe she was giving him some on the side. I don't know.
And on that note,
it's just that's just this episode is just blah. Trying to make light of it. So tell me about the African tribesmen.
I guess actually Annie Oakley was married. At age 15, she won a shooting contest against an experienced marksman known as Frank Butler, who she later married.
You can shoot good. I'm going to marry you someday.
The pair joined Buffalo Bill in 1885.
Was it threesome?
Europe before royalty and other heads of state. So actually, if this has been accurate, her husband would have been there too. Because at this time she was married.
Wild Bill had him locked up.
Maybe. I never know. I don't know. Her real name was Phoebe Ann Moses.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I'm just looking here real quick, seeing when she was married. But I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so she should have been married at this point. But maybe
he was in the bathroom.
I mean,
men take a long time in the bathroom.
Not always. Just because I do.
So I'm trying to get to the African part because I could have probably stomached. No, I couldn't have. I would have been okay. No, I wouldn't have. It was, no, it wasn't even viewable. It is what it is at the beginning. And then it just dive bombs from there. Like the scenery, I didn't like the costumes. It looked like they literally shot it in a studio apartment size building.
I don't think it was that bad.
It was so small. Like,
I don't think it was that bad.
It gave me claustrophobia. It was that bad. I think you need to rewatch it again.
You want to?
That part. No, I don't want to. You can. You watch it.
I will. I enjoyed it.
That's like someone saying, I enjoy, I don't know, Brussels sprouts. And you're like, why? Well, there's nothing good about Brussels sprouts. Actually, Brussels sprouts aren't that bad, but
I did like on that scene there, that section where they were in Africa, the shaman or whatever thought that shaman thought that Bog and Jeffrey were with the white slavers. And then when they did catch up the slavers later, when they freed the black guys that were being held captive, the one slaver's like, what are you doing? You're one of us. And he's like, I may look like you, but I'll never be one of you.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a good line. There was a few okay lines.
Oh, well, that was better than just okay. That was a good line.
Okay, that one was a great line.
Okay.
Like I said, that was a great line. However, there was a few other good lines in that part. But it was just awful. It was like they were in, like I said, a bedroom, studio apartment. I'm going to say it was in an elevator. That's how small it felt.
It wasn't small.
They
were in the jungles.
Yeah. In the jungles. In the jungles?
In the jungle.
And they go into Walmarts too?
Yes. They are going to Walmarts and Costco's.
And Costco's. And Targets.
But I usually say Targets. But anyways.
That's Target. No, I just feel like if you go back and watch it, it was like, they're like, we're going to move you. And they like carried him like 2 feet and then sat him back down.
Well, they moved out of the middle of the camp over to the edge of the camp.
There was no middle of the camp. It was camp with a hut and another hut and another hut and another hut in a U shape with people sitting in the middle of it that could have probably laid down and touched the hut.
It wasn't that small.
You're exaggerating. Small.
Small little campsite, but it wasn't it wasn't their home per se. I think it was just where they were at.
It was so bad.
I mean, it was a small tribe, and
you saw more than just hut on a hut on a hut on a hut, lay down and touch they could have spread all 4 body limbs and they could have touched like all 4 huts in a row, just like one on the right, one on the left, one on the hand.
Well, you're exaggerating.
It was so bad.
You're again. I don't find it that bad. Again, and keep in mind it was 80s. It was limited budget.
That showed how much budget they had left. Literally, it was like they went to the 99-cent store and bought foliage and put it on there, and they're like, okay, this shaman guy's gonna have a skunk head. And we're going to put a big old stripe. And I could not get past that on the costume. That big old stripe that he had on his headband. Right. First I thought it was gray hair. And I'm like, no, the guy's bald. It was awful. It was just awful. I felt dirty watching that. Because I felt like it was so not culturally sensitive. It was horrible.
What do you mean culturally sensitive? They were in the...
in the 80s... And
no, I'm talking about where they were at. They were in the early 1900s, in the middle of African jungles.
Jungle, in the middle of an African jungle.
Jungles. There's a bunch of jungles in there. And they were in the middle of the jungle, and they were in the middle of the jungle in the early 1900s. They don't have taxis and 3-piece suits.
I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking actually make it look authentic, not. The high school drama department made everything.
See, I disagree. I don't think it was that.
The high school drama teacher who wishes she was on Broadway still, that has a smoker's cough and breath.
I don't think it was that bad. I think you're exaggerating quite a bit.
Go make these costumes for these people and make sure they look African. And no one went to the library and use the Dewey Decimal System to look up the African tribes during 19 or 18 whatever.
How do you know? Maybe they did. Do you know what the tribes looked like back then?
Not like that.
How do you know?
Because knowing is half the battle. Ha ha ha.
You can't throw a G.I. Joe reference in there and throw me off track. You're not going to distract me.
Oh, these poor listeners don't know what hit them. Oh, wait, hold on. The poor listener does not know what hit them.
Hell. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
They didn't either.
You're not going to distract me from that, though. But
I think I did. Your brain kind of took a nosedive for a second. Admit it.
A little bit. Yeah.
I think that's going to be my new shtick. Like every episode, no matter what we're podcasting, I've got to put "and knowing is half the battle." G.I. Joe. Just to watch your brain go, just like the episode.
But yeah, I don't think that the setting was that bad.
And then when Annie Oakley, so then the Duke, or whoever the dude was, the Duke of Russia, or Prince of Russia, or whatever you want to call it, the guy.
The Duke of Russia?
Sure. The Duke. When they were at the shootout and he shot the plates from the distance that he was at, and he did a pretty good job. Then you have Annie Oakley, who comes in riding a horse, and as she's riding past them, she's shooting them.
Again, shooting from a moving horse is harder than shooting standing still. I know this from my days in the radio.
As a clown?
Yeah.
No, if she was as good as she is, and if she was as historically amazing as she was with a gun, it would have been fantastic if she were to ride up and be off in the distance, and from far away she shot those plates instead of dramatically riding in and being like 3 feet or like 2 feet off to the left, shoot it, 2 feet off to the left and shoot it. Like it would have sealed the deal more if she was like off a while and they didn't know she was coming, and all of a sudden the plates start exploding and they look off in the distance and there's Annie Oakley and they're like, she's back. That would have been better than the way they did it.
Yes, I will give you that. That would have been a better way of doing it. Yes, I will agree with you on that.
Yay!
I still don't think it was a bad episode.
Boo!
But yeah, that would have made it better.
Thank you. That's where my brain was just like, I hate this episode.
No, you gave up on it a long time before that.
But that was like
at the very end.
Horrible.
That was at the very
end. There was no saving grace. Had they did that, I might have been like, okay.
No, you wouldn't have. You'd already given up on it long before then.
I don't know. But
you'd given up on it you gave up to it. You gave into it like half an hour earlier.
5 minutes into the show?
Yeah.
No, because the tribe was just horrific. And the whole jungle scene was just abominable.
I don't think it was. But
I will say this.
Disagree.
I will say this. So before we watched the episode, I was in our room watching a Game of Thrones episode with our daughter. And so coming back in and then seeing them all sitting at the pagoda and the queen's there and they're sitting next to each other.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, it reminded me of Game of Thrones with like Cersei and because it was the episode where the mountain kills Prince Oberyn.
Okay, right.
And so it's like the whole
Spoilers.
Fight to the death thing. And I was just like, oh, they're kind of doing the same thing that like Game of Thrones did, but.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying and I understand what you're saying. I understand the words that come out of your mouth.
Thank you.
But.
Because otherwise I'd have to slap you. But
I just disagree. I don't think it was that bad of a show. I thought that, while the jungle scene wasn't the best laid out on a series that's getting ready to end, I don't think it was that bad. Again, for 1982, 1983.
I feel like they just gave up. They're like, F it. We're not going to be doing this anymore. So use whatever's in the drama department.
And that may have been part of the thing. They may have been running along. Because again, you said that apparently John helped fund the last few episodes they actually ended up doing. So maybe they were low on funds. But I don't think it was that bad personally. But again, for something I like, I tend to be a little softer, a little easier on things.
They wasted their money on this episode.
So was there anything good about the episode that you liked that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, it ended.
Ba-da-boom.
The princess was pretty. How about you? What are some things that you're like, this is a great episode?
Well, I don't think I ever said great. It was a good episode.
Okay, what are some things, except for the fact that you're like, you fanscape stuff, and you're like, oh.
I'm not fanscaping anything on this
you're
episode.
So kind at stuff. You're like, oh, it's Voyagers, so I'm gonna like it no matter what it is because it's Voyagers.
Like for instance, Peacemaker. I love the character. I love the comic when he was in the Checkmate comic. I can't stand the show.
But that's the whole show.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you watched one episode and it sucked, but you kept watching it and it grew on you or you liked it. And then, no, the whole show sucked. So you can't even compare that.
I can, but
it doesn't work.
It's not a fair comparison.
No, it's not a fair comparison.
But yeah, I thought it was a decent written episode. It wasn't, like I say, it wasn't top of the line, but I enjoyed the action. It didn't even
get to the middle of the line.
What?
It didn't even get to the middle of the line.
What line?
You said it wasn't the top of the line. So
I'm with it. I thought when Jeffrey and Bog rode up and Jeffrey hopped on that stagecoach to stop it and save it and save the queen and the princess before they knew he was in there. I thought that was great. I thought that was some great action scenes.
So I don't know if you noticed, but that buggy that he jumped on.
The wagon?
The wagon. The station wagon. It might as well have been. It was that bad. They actually had like the seat.
Right.
And then like, where your feet would kind of hang. Right. They had a burlap sack on top of it, trying to make it look like Westerny. But you could tell it was like refurbished from a different episode. And I was like, I wanted to pause it to see if I could see the staples from the staple gun on where they attached the burlap on it. It was so badly done.
It didn't look that bad to me. I don't know. Again, I'm half blind, so maybe that's part of the reason. But
and you're just there. You enjoy it to watch it. And I'm looking at it with a critical eye.
I wasn't looking to
destroy
drag it down and blow it up and beat it up and demolish it. I thought it was a good episode.
Burn it.
I don't know what to say. I mean,
I'm really sad that I used my falling through the time space continuum to land in this episode.
It could have been worse.
How?
Oh, wait till next episode.
Oh, Pat's breath.
If you want to learn more about the Wright brothers, Eddie Rickenbacker, and the early days of flying, take a voyage to your nearest public library. It's all in books.
Thank you for listening. This has been Voyagers Cast, a proud member of the Hit Cast Network family of shows. All copyrights belong to respective owners, and no copyright infringement is intended or implied. We're just a huge fan of time travel shows, and Voyagers in particular. Be sure to join us monthly as we watch where Phineas and Jeffrey land next. And if you enjoy this show, check out the other shows on the Headcast Network. The first week of the month, we have Head Speaks and the Starbright Project. Head Speaks is where I talk about comic books, TVs, movies, books, anything geeky. The Starbright Project is where Michelle and I look at another great time travel series, Quantum Leap, and then we'll talk about it. The second week of the month brings you G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, and this show, Voyagers Cast. Over on my G.I. Joe show, we look at the G.I. Joe comics and cartoons from the late 80s. The third week of the month, we drop both Task Force X and Retrospect to the 80s. Task Force X is a show that looks at the Suicide Squad and Checkmate books from the late 80s. Retrospect to the 80s, surprisingly enough, is a show where Michelle and I, and possibly some guests, look back at what we think is the greatest decade there was, the 80s. Finally, the fourth week of the month, I release the Starman Manhunter Adventure Hour and Bravo Team. Starman Manhunter is a show where I look at the Will Payton Starman and the Mark Shaw Manhunter books, both from the late 80s. Yes, I have a time period. Bravo Team is my sister show to the G.I. Joe team, or maybe brother show, where we look at anything else G.I. Joe related. We'll be back next month to join our friends Phineas and Jeffrey as they leap into, well, the unknown. Until then, remember, may your landings always be soft
and your lights always be green.